the Around the NFL podcast. We'll always cherish the young and sweaty era.
From the Chris Wessling Podcast Studio, it's Around the NFL. I am Dan Hanzus. Got heroes here. Gregg Rosenthal, Marc Sessler. On this very special week on the NFL calendar, it's Week 12, but it's also, here's the language, the John Madden Thanksgiving commemoration. What's up, guys?
Also known as Thanksgiving, which is fun.
Yeah, well, that's the secondary title would be Thanksgiving.
No, NFL now has enough power
Yeah.
Due to the ratings and the billions that Thanksgiving has been officially renamed.
I'm with it. I mean, if there's one person
you are.
that there's one person that I want to be reminded of every year, it's John Madden. He can just be the new.
Love John Madden.
He's my Santa.
I like that angle of it, Greg. We all, grew up with John Madden. I don't disagree that he deserves to be recognized, but for them to literally rename Thanksgiving, that I think flies in the face of the larger population.
That's just the football. That's just the football production value.
Madden's first Thanksgiving game, for the record. And maybe some people, the younger listeners, don't know John Madden.
Or they know him as a video game.
A Hall of Fame a player, and then a Hall of Fame coach with the Raiders, retired early, and then got the bug to stay in the game and ended up becoming, I think, undoubtedly like the most famous NFL announcer ever, launched a video game franchise that became the biggest video game franchise ever, and he passed away, I believe, was it last year or the year before? And now we celebrate Madden and we celebrate his contribution to the game because he kind of was Americana personified, especially this time of year. And his last Thanksgiving Day game as a commentator was way back in 2001, but it just goes to show you what kind of connection he had.
Well, also, there's no him without Pat Summerall as well. It's like the two of them kind of were this incredible duo. And I do wonder what it would be like if John Madden were dropped in today's world, where like half of the conversation is about like EPA and DVOA. Like he was from a time where you just talk about what you're seeing on the field right now and like how big the guys' legs are and like they're smashing into each other and you're eating turkey.
Kind of miss that.
I kind of miss it. But you're not. No, you're not. It's great what we have now.
Oh, it's better.
So much better.
I mean, I hear you, but man, he broke it down X's and O style.
Yeah, Mark oversimplified it.
I mean,
he took a shot at Madden.
I'm just saying, I think
he's very Romo-like. I think. I mean, Romo is not John Madden, and he's definitely not going to be like writing a bunch of #1 best-selling books like Madden did, which another career that.
Yeah, that's right. They were romance novels.
They kind of remind me the
very
same.
steamy.
1 equals 2 feet.
They're kind of similar to me the way they like the game.
Speaking of historical figures, I gotta bring this up, Mark, because we've long had a connection.
Wait, now I'm like I got the John Madden thing wrong. Like
it's too late. We've moved on.
Madden. Give me a
next
break.
topic.
I watched like 4,000 John Madden.
Let's have 16 games to get through.
Okay.
I think it's the only time we'll ever do that. That's amazing.
Let's nail this historical figure.
Okay.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
JFK spitting bars in a big spot in an address at Rice University on September 12, 1962. Today's November 22nd, 2023. It has been 60 years since John Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, like coming up to the hour, almost 60 years. And Mark, I've always been, and this kind of talks about the pull of Kennedy, that even though this is a man that's been gone 60 years, when we were growing up, like he was a major figure and someone you knew about. The Oliver Stone film, of course.
Yeah.
In 93, around the 30th anniversary, was a major part of our lives growing up. And I don't know, I think he's a figure of immense historical worth. And you, Mark, we have talked about him for years and years since we've known each other.
Yeah.
I don't know if the listeners know this, but John F. Kennedy was such a fascination, and the details around his tragic death, that you almost wrote a book or started writing a book about it.
I transferred colleges multiple times, and my third transfer was to American University in D.C., and I went there under the guise of I'm going to research the assassination left and right. But it was 1993 when I went and did that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the 30-year anniversary, and about 406 books came out on the topic. And it was just on the heels of the Oliver Stone film, so it was like, did not pick the right spot. But I've always thought he was.
But did you actually start it?
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
still going.
tons of research. Yeah,
It's still going strong.
it is. But I think also I was in college and I got diverted. Found a girlfriend down the hallway, and like JFK assassination took a hard right turn out of my life.
So it's an unfinished work. I mean, it's still popping. They got a new JFK pod on the old iHeart radio network.
They do.
Rob Reiner, and
They
it's still
do.
popping.
Is it doing better than
It's
us?
popping. I think it is.
It's on our heels.
We need
it
Rob
must slow
Reiner
down.
on Home and Home.
Yeah.
All right. And by the way, that was Kennedy, getting the U.S. formally into the space race. You wanted to send a man to the moon and bring him home safely by 1970. He was killed in 63, but we got there in July 69. Major sliding doors moment in the history of this country is his death.
And his brothers, and MLK's, and Malcolm X's.
And say what you want about LBJ, but he did get the civil rights bill across the finish line at 64, which was a Kennedy mandate as well.
That's true.
Vietnam
he
could
did
have
some
been
other
totally
things
different.
too. He did some other things too.
That would have been in the book.
It would have.
All right, let's get to it. Here we go. My son Jack, one of the reasons I named that. Jack. The first Irish Catholic president as well. Let's move on.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yes. All right. Here we go. Let's get into it. Let's start with the Thanksgiving games because that's how John Madden would have wanted it. The early game is the Green Bay Packers against, of course, the Detroit Lions. It is the tradition that's gone back decades now for the NFL. And we have a situation that's very different these days because the Lions are now a hot ticket. And that place is going to be on fire, Marc Sessler, because the Lions are 8-2. They're on a 3-game winning streak, and they get the Packers, and this is good for us, the football fans, coming off a nice win of their own, a 3-point win over the Chargers that kept them in the NFC playoff race. So it's kind of a gotta-have-it game for Green Bay. And, Greg, you've been talking about it, and I've noticed it, and I'm sure you have as well, Mark, that Jordan Love is starting to figure some things out the last few weeks. Maybe we get a corker here in the NFC North.
Yeah, I think like you're coming off of a performance Jordan Love's probably best of the year against the Chargers defense, so you got to take that into account. But 300 plus yards, effective as a deep thrower. I think they've got an interesting cast of wide receivers who have started to gel. So there is some hope. The thing about this game, though, that pops out for me more than anything else, they have like 17 players, the Packers, on their injury report. Now, they're in varying states of up and downness, but Aaron Jones, obviously not going to be playing with that knee injury. A.J. Dillon, their backup running back, is on the injury report. Emmanuel Wilson, the third running back, is on the injury report. Luke Musgrave was hospitalized and will not be playing, the tight end. Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. I mean, a lot of their offense is banged up, and I think you'd need to be fully healthy and completely on your act to have a chance against a Detroit team that's going to be extremely amped up.
Yeah, Detroit's been pretty disappointing, though, over the last month, just in terms of their defense. They've been one of the worst defenses in the league since they showed up in Baltimore. I think the book is kind of out that you just throw against them. Just throw. They're not good at cornerback. They don't really have a great pass rush. I know Hutchinson's having a good year. Aleem McNeil's having a good year. But it's a reminder you actually need more than two players. And just consistency, you could look at any metric you want. They're one of the 2 or 3 worst defenses in the league in the last 4 or 5 weeks. And you're going up against a Packers passing attack that when you can protect Love, weirdly, Dan, they have more plays over 30 yards than any team in the NFL. Doesn't that kind of shock you?
That is surprising.
Some of them are schemed up, and it's like 30's a weird cutoff. There's actually not that many for any team, but still, the Packers hit on some big plays. I could see a lot of points. I think this will be fun. I think the Lions are favored by too much. It's 7.5 in this one.
Yeah, I mean, you heard it made some news this week. Tom Brady talking about seeing, a level of mediocrity in the games he's watching. Maybe that speaks to that a little bit. Like if the Packers are the team that's kind of leading the charge in terms of big plays, and we just finished watching a game on Monday night where where Patrick Mahomes, him airing it out now is like a 7-yard gain. But that's the reason why it's hard to do. It's hard to hit on big plays, and I think it does perhaps, Greg, hit on that there is a lot of potential here, both with the quarterback and some of the playmakers. And yeah, I think you hit on it there that Detroit is the better team. Detroit is at home. That building is going to be rocking. I can't wait to see. I wish Creed was playing. Speaking of anniversaries, it's like the 20th anniversary of the Creed halftime show.
They've
where
gotten away from that, huh?
the bald guy with the silver painted face came down from the rafters with the stone
that was
face.
in Dallas. But
Oh, yeah, that's right. Doesn't matter.
Think how big of a deal, though, it would be if they actually did that. People would love it.
Oh, it'd be amazing. And now that I think about it, yeah, Scott Stapp was wearing, I don't know, like it was like a Tony Romo jersey or whatever it would have been back then. Anyway, the defensive struggles of Detroit. Maybe Jordan Love does have another big game here, and this one goes down to the wire. But I just don't see the Lions losing it. Maybe we get a nice shootout with a double 30 burger.
I think it'd be kind of stunning if they lost at home on Thanksgiving. I really like what Jahmyr Gibbs has been over the last month, and the pairing of him. It's not like it's him or David Montgomery. The two of them together work really well. Green Bay is giving up the 5th most rushing yards in the league. You can run on them. Their defense isn't special either. And I don't really care about what happened to Jared Goff last week. I think in general, our sample size of Jared Goff over the last 17 games tells us the story of an effective, efficient quarterback, and especially at home. He has been lights out at home. And I just, it's like, how do you come in and not – I kind of see a romp, to be honest.
He's not going to turtle shell after
not in this.
throwing 3 picks. That's not really who he
didn't
is.
in that game.
Yeah.
No.
I think that running attack, and they've evened out the snaps now where Gibbs and Montgomery are splitting, might be the very best in football. And their offensive line, it's great, but it's especially great run blocking. So I'm with you. I think this is a perfect way to start. I think we could get big-time scores.
38-31.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
I have one prophecy.
Yes.
You know, like Aunt Beatrice, whoever's watching this game, but is not a big football fan necessarily.
Right.
But it's on and you're stuck
Like she's
doing
basting the
It
turkey
is
and the
starting
TV's on in the
9:30
living
a.m.
room.
We got to
Yeah.
get Beatrice over early.
Beatrice,
on the
well,
West
she's
Coast.
already sleeping
She's
over the night
cranking.
before. Beatrice she flew in.
Oh,
from
really?
out of town.
Where'd she sleep?
I'm just saying,
She was with you?
she's an old. She would be a matronly older
His
aunt.
aunt.
It's not my aunt. I'm saying, but
No, it's not. It's not blood.
this is actually a football prediction.
Someone had to ask the question.
I am not related to. I'm saying the archetypal Aunt Beatrice will
Right.
come out of this game
Yeah.
around 12:30 Eastern with a secret and dangerous man crush on Sam Laporta, who
Okay.
will win the game for the Lions.
Okay.
Very nice call.
I thought you were going to say on Dan Campbell. Also could be a favorite of the Ant crowd.
Oh, he's too much man for me. The Lions are playing their 84th game on Thanksgiving, by the way. That is the most all time. And
Wow.
they are something crazy like 16-4 in their last 20 games overall, dating back to last year. So the Lions are rolling. Let's move on. We got to keep rolling. We got so many games to hit today. So we're going to hit the middle game, and it's always the Cowboys. And yes, it was Scott Stapp. Can we find out, Eric behind the glass, Scott Stapp, Thanksgiving 2001, whose jersey he was wearing? It might have been DeMarcus Ware. This is very important to find out. All right. The Washington Commanders, 4-7, third place in the NFC East, travel to Dallas to face the 7-3 boys. Greg, the Commanders, they're going in the wrong direction. And Howell had a miserable game against the Giants. And now you're sending them to Dallas, where, again, Dallas is, it's a very good team with an opportunistic defense playing at home. I don't want to count out Howell because he's really had a nice season on balance, but he's in the danger zone, I think, here when it comes to turnovers that could crush Washington.
Well, especially because when you look at the schedule he's faced, according to Football Outsiders, he's faced the easiest schedule of opposing quarterbacks so far this year, and now it's going to get tough. He has a bunch of tough matchups on the schedule, including, I believe it's 2 against the Cowboys. And so you hope it's the good Howell, because, again, this could be a bit of a score fest. I love the Commanders when they're trailing in games because they will keep throwing and throwing and throwing. I also thought we missed it on the show. It was interesting that it was nice that Jerry Jones finally announced Jimmy Johnson going to the Hall, the Ring of Honor.
They were sitting together.
If he wanted to make a big deal, he could have done it on Thanksgiving when this and the Lions game are the 2 most watched games of the entire season usually.
Just think how much bad blood there must have been for Jimmy Johnson, one of the most charismatic, successful figures in the history of that team, it taking 30 years to get him into the team.
You're placing with Barry Switzer.
Ego is a problem. Who wants the credit is a problem. This is why we need to don't do this Kraft and Belichick. We don't got 30 years. We don't have 30 years to waste.
Well, Belichick doesn't have 30 years.
Well, Kraft's,
Yeah, or Kraft, but I'm saying
Kraft's in his 80s right now. Let's see if Tony Pollard can pick it up here. Yeah, the Cowboys are good at everything. They're 22nd, though, in rushing, and this is against a good run defense. This is a team you attack normally through the air, Washington. They're actually pretty good stopping the run.
Of course, and thank you to Eric. Of course, it was a number 11 Stapp jersey. It was a self-personalized.
Who's
Cowboys
11?
jersey.
Nobody? I don't
Well,
know.
it would
Probably like some biblical
It
reference.
would have had to have been a quarterback back then.
Yeah. Yeah. How about Deron Bland, by the way? Because when they lost Diggs in the secondary, it was supposed to be a crushing blow for Dallas's defense. But Bland has become that guy. I feel like there's always one guy in the secondary somewhere in the league every year that just has that special interception season. But he's taking the ball back with pick sixes. He's become a 4. That's got to be the record.
Well, there's
right?
there's all these tweets out there now about like the fact that he essentially has 4 receiving touchdowns, but there's a flock of bigger name wideouts that have 3 over the course of a whole year. So it's
and
very
I don't know,
difficult.
Greg. I don't know if the PFF and other analytics back him up as a premier corner, but he's a playmaker on a team that is just loaded with him. So he filled that void in a lot of ways in their secondary because Diggs was kind of that as well.
Diggs, yeah.
He wasn't always perfect in coverage, but he always was there around the ball.
He's been solid, though, even in coverage on plays that he's not returning to the house. And he was good last year, too, that they found something. I mean, they are better in every way than this Washington.
I mean, I just
This
feel
this could get ugly, by the way.
I think it's
This one
get very
could, yeah.
ugly, and I think it starts with Micah Parsons, who like last week he like dry scooped or something before the game, which is like he took a bunch of protein, I think it was, and then he's like threw up multiple times. But then go watch that Panthers game.
Gross.
He is destroying them from all over the place. Sam Howell. I mean, this point we've heard this before, but he's been sacked 50 times. No other player more than 40. He's been hit 92 times. I feel like Micah Parsons is like set up to absolutely create utter havoc.
Deron Bland is your number 1 PFF ranked coverage.
Wow.
Cornerback.
So he's,
So,
I mean,
He is
Diggs was not ranking like that the last couple years.
and that's not be all end all, but
No.
if the eye test and the tape test and of course the production of the pick sixes, how is he not in the defensive player of the year conversation? I haven't heard him.
Parsons was
come
saying
up.
that. It is funny because if he was just like drafted in the top 10 overall picks last year instead of in the 5th round, I have a feeling he would be getting like more attention.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it feels more fluky.
Do you think if Dak Prescott goes out and has another one of these games, because the Cowboys have changed my mind, Dan, from like where we were a month ago. I see it because the way they win in every way, and some of their biggest wins haven't really been because of their offense. But if Dak goes out and mincemeats like the Washington defense, like is he our MVP frontrunner?
No, but
Who is?
Hurts.
I don't think there is.
I think they're
Hurts?
the 2 leaders in Vegas right now.
I don't think it. I think 7 weeks
Lamar?
left. It hasn't started. Like none of what happened.
Stop it with
No,
that. I hate
no,
when
it's
you say
true
that.
though. But
it matters to whoever wants to talk about it.
No, but what I mean is like nothing that's happened to this point I think is going to impact who wins the MVP. There's about 15 guys that could, whoever, and I think Dak is
Gotta
is up
close.
there.
I think Dak. I mean,
Whoever-
Dak in a parallel universe, he's got 12 interceptions and he's melting down and everyone's going crazy. He's having a great season.
So it's funny because
That guy's a chance. He'd be a good story too.
he is. He
Narrative.
checks a lot of the boxes. It's funny because I know the Cowboys are going to be there in January, but Dak lighting up the Commanders at home on Thanksgiving, I need to see him really in a big spot in the playoffs.
Well, nothing matters till
against
then.
a big time
Yeah,
team.
nothing matters.
So I always kind of doubt them because I have questions about him, like personally in that type of environment. But you know what? As I say all the time, you're going to be able to watch it. Unless catastrophe strikes. We don't jinx anybody. Let's move to the final game, the Thanksgiving night game. See, if you're following along in this, if you're tracking the league, it's incremental, but the NFL gobbles things up. And about 10, 12 years ago, that's when the Thanksgiving night came as a game. And now we got Friday as well. Easter Sunday kickoff. Maybe. Don't doubt it. Let's see. We have the 49ers traveling to Seattle to face the Seahawks. The Seahawks have some injury issues here. Geno Smith with the elbow. I think he's tracking towards playing, but he's banged up. DK Metcalf also banged up. And if you look at Seattle, Greg, it's a big game for them because yes, the Niners, it would be no shame if they weren't able to beat the Niners at home. The Niners are arguably the best team in football, if not a top 3 team in football. However, you look at the next 3 weeks after this, at Dallas, at San Francisco, versus Philadelphia. they could go into a skid that could ruin their season. So this almost is like in this environment, if you get this win, you could probably survive the rocky terrain ahead and play down the stretch with a real chance of the playoffs, or this thing could start spinning out of control after a bad loss to the Rams.
Yeah, it was probably about a month ago that I said, wow, I think this team has a higher ceiling than I expected this season. And since then, they've looked incredibly mediocre. Their offense is definitely a little worse than it was a year ago. It's not bad, but it's not a difference maker. It's not consistent. And their defense has taken a huge step back. And I just kind of think when you're playing a team like the 49ers, you're going to have some things that they can pick on. You know, are you physical enough to hold up to them? They certainly weren't. This was a terrible matchup. They were really embarrassed against the 49ers 3 times last year. But it's like, what is it that you do really well that can make up for that? And I don't see anything with the Seahawks. They actually don't really have any part of their team that's special. There's no Kenneth Walker in this game. It'll be Zach Charbonnet. I don't think that's a huge deal. But I worry about them holding up to the physicality of the 49ers defensive front, especially.
Yeah, like I get real tired of like historical matchup data, but I don't think it's unreliable to look at last year. And these teams are very similar.
When it's the same coaches, it totally makes sense.
No, it's very similar.
Yeah.
And like I go back to that Thursday night game where I thought that Geno Smith, and he had a great season, but it started to tail off a little bit in the final, third or fourth. And San Francisco, like the Niners exposed Seattle in a lot of ways in that game. And if you go look at their weapons, Christian McCaffrey at running back, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, like at the running back, wide receiver, and tight end position, no other 3 players have had more success historically against Seattle than those 3 players.
Whoa.
They match up really well against Seattle's defense. Right now, we're getting a version of we've woken up from the dream of that Brock Purdy is going to come back down and be some sort of second-tier mezzanine level quarterback. He's been absolutely awesome for 2 weeks in a row. I don't care that this game is in Seattle. That doesn't seem to me the same way it used to. I think the Niners own this team, and I don't think Geno Smith is healthy even if he plays.
I got some data points on Purdy, who leads the NFL. He has nearly 10 yards at attempt. His passer rating, which I know is not everything, but when you're he's at 115, that tells you a lot. I mean, how efficient he is. He's on pace for over 4,500 yards passing. He's completing 70% of his passes. As you said, he came out of that slump, and it was a legitimate slump. But the last couple of weeks,
it wasn't like he was terrible in that slump either.
Right, but the last 2 weeks, he's completed 78% of his passes, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, with a perfect passer rating. He is a guy that won't be perfect always, but when he starts cooking and this offense is rolling, and if the defense is vulnerable, they're going to score points. And then it's like, Greg, can Seattle keep up if this turns into a shootout? And the way they are right now, I'm not sure.
Right. Can they take advantage of the only weakness in San Francisco, which I think is their cornerbacks? But I don't know if they can hold up long enough. If you just looked at the numbers without any context, Brock Purdy's your MVP.
Right.
Why can't anyone accept that just because of the system?
I think the leader in EPA per play for quarterbacks has won MVP something like 6 or 7 years in a row, 6 years in a row. Like that usually is that it kind of tells you who's playing the best. And he's so far ahead in that number that there's almost no chance he's not going to have that lead.
But why do we act like he's Holly Hobby just because he's in a Kyle Shanahan offense?
It's unfair. I think it's unfair. Well, I think the guys that he's competing against for this award, like Lamar, like Jalen Hurts, like Mahomes, if that offense ever wakes up, I think they're better players. I think everyone kind of knows that they're better players, and I think that's what hurts Purdy, because people do say he's a good player in an incredible scheme with an amazing talent around him, and there's no way escaping that unless he pulls up the enemy and says, "I'm going to go do it somewhere else on my own." So maybe you have to just deal with the Shanahan tax, and there are worse fates in the world, to be honest, Mark. But I see what you're saying. If he leads the league in like virtually every passing category, and the team goes 13-4,
but to the eye, like Josh Allen is like a physical specimen. Lamar is spectacular.
Well, and also
they
carry their offense in a way that he doesn't. A, because he doesn't run, and B, because he doesn't throw the ball much. I mean, those guys have thrown the ball 140 more times than him. So. I think that matters. Volume does matter a little bit.
Mark, I feel your frustration.
Yeah, but I could argue against myself too. It's just that it's like he won't even get votes. He won't even get votes.
Eric,
we'll see.
Can you check the Vegas odds right now for MVP? See where Purdy is, because he absolutely should be in the top 3, and if he's not, there is a lot of bias going on.
By the way, how about
You know.
Seattle? Go take care of business against the Rams before this insane
Yeah, that was
classic
like
trap
I
game. By the
can't.
way.
I don't buy them.
Classic trap game.
I think Chase Young has really changed their defense. The way they were using him and Bosa kind of like in the A-gaps as like linebackers or something. It was kind of crazy. Eric Armstead had his most pressures of any game in his career last week on top of that, and I think that's partly because opposing offensive lines have so much to deal with, and the Seattle offensive line is terrible. It's been terrible.
Hey guys, real quick before we move on, I'm seeing on DraftKings right now Brock Purdy plus 1,500 for MVP.
Well, what number?
Where does he? Where is he?
That would be behind Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Tua. So that would be 5th.
Oh, so that's,
Mahomes.
well, that's pretty high though. So
Yeah,
that
but
kinda-
Mahomes is going to get the opposite tax because no matter what,
You got Dak Prescott right behind him at plus 1,500, C.J. Stroud plus 18,
Okay.
and CMC
that's fifth.
plus
He's-
22.
It's not totally
Okay.
out of the mix.
Okay.
He might be creeping up.
it says something that his running back is the first non-quarterback on that list.
If I had a vote today, I'm putting Tyreek Hill number 1. It is crazy that Tyreek Hill's not in the top 10 there. It's crazy.
Season.
He's on pace for 2,000 yards.
7 big season.
To me, he's been the most excellent player this season. It's crazy.
All right, so those are the Thanksgiving games. Now, for the first time ever, as I said, we have a Black Friday game. It is the Jets and the Dolphins at the Meadowlands, and it is a new quarterback for the Jets. Tim Boyle will be starting. Zach Wilson demoted all the way to emergency backup quarterback, so with Trevor Siemian as the number 2. So that is the sad state of affairs around the Jets. And now it becomes, Greg, this game and the idea of this game being enjoyable to watch comes down to a couple things. One, anybody other than Zach Wilson. So at least you get another quarterback who maybe has a more professional ability to move an offense, and maybe the Jets could score a couple touchdowns. But can the Jets defense, which finally let up and got beat up by Buffalo last week, are they going to be able to cook up some things to slow down Tua and the Dolphins offense, which, as we know, has happened in multiple points this season against good defenses?
Right, really for the last month. When was the last great Tua game?
All right, let's look at it.
I mean, the Eagles game, I think he played very well. It didn't show up statistically, but it would be the week before that. We've gone basically a month without a dominant Dolphins offensive performance. By basically any metric you looked at, offensively, they've been average for a month. Now, their defense is getting much better, but you just see little cracks. They're terrible in short yardage. They can't buy a yard when it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. They never just like run the ball normally. Their offensive line, which started out pretty in sync, you see some leaks there, and this is a very tough matchup against the Jets. So while this game is not as nearly exciting as I would have expected going into the season, the Dolphins are still a very compelling team at 7-3, trying to win this division. And when they have the ball, this is an outstanding test for them. If they're who we think they are, they should be able to put some points up eventually and pull away in this game.
Last week against the Raiders, they kept getting in their own way. They had 3 giveaways. Like Tua finally looked human on a number of passes. They had yet again a turnover, inside the 5-yard line. I mean, that kind of stuff. But
A little sloppy.
It was sloppy, but then it's like over and over, like Tyreek Hill kept digging them out. And I'm with you on the MVP thing, but it's like no one could stop what he was doing. And it's like you're going to get a couple of those. And I think we're at the point, and I think what happened, one of the reasons you got this quarterback change in New York, I mean, it should have happened a long time ago, was that the defense can't do it alone. And I think change for the sake of change was needed. And Tim Boyle, new face. But like Tim Boyle, if you look at it, in college, and you don't get a lot of pro quarterbacks where this has happened. In college, 12 touchdowns and 26 interceptions. That is not where an NFL quarterback comes from a collegiate level.
He played on Thanksgiving a couple of years ago, didn't he? Didn't he throw?
Well, he's played for Detroit a number of times, and I wonder. Well, I honestly was thinking like, what if I were the Jets? What would I do? Like, what do you do differently? And like, I would literally think about just morphing out of nowhere on Black Friday into like a surprise Wildcat type game where Breece Hall touches the ball like.
Yeah, but they don't have an
35 times.
offensive line. So
I know, but Wildcat
that's a
can
problem.
like change all sorts of things. I'm just saying, do something that
Also,
no one's expecting.
there are a lot of things going on there. Tim Boyle is good buddies with Aaron Rodgers. Like, this
Right.
is everything has kind of gone like the worst
Well,
case scenario.
they signed up for this.
So they got in bed with Rodgers and they get all the bad stuff and none of the good stuff because he's not playing. So now you have Boyle in the building, probably because of Rodgers. You have Hackett still the offense, and almost any other offense coordinator at the very least would have lost his play calling duties by now.
Yeah.
And many would be fired. And we're going to get to Matt Canada, who lost his job. But he's still there. So they are complete.
My name's Nathaniel Hackett. Thanks. It's nice to see you out here.
We are a long way from Hard Knocks when he was this cute figure. And, he's going to be there next year as well because he is Aaron Rodgers' boy. So they are kind of caught in this like tornado of Rodgers, and they, like you said, signed up for it. So I guess my only thought with that is maybe Boyle is a professional to the point where he could see the field and pull the trigger and just make basic plays that Wilson just couldn't even make.
The
And
thing is, though, he's sort of the opposite of that. He's like a big armed guy who's gonna like make some crazy throws.
Well, you
and
know
make
what?
some big time mistakes.
honestly,
It's just
I don't think anybody has high optimism around the start for Boyle, but it's not Zach Wilson.
That's all it needs to be right
and
now.
that's right now.
that's all it
You're
needs to
right.
be.
That's all it needs to be. And if you're the Dolphins and you're Dolphins fans like Handsome Hank and everyone else, you could essentially end the Jets season here because I thought going into this 1-2 punch for the Jets, Buffalo, Miami, coming off those two losses, ugly losses against the Chargers and Raiders, the Jets had to win one of them. And so I didn't think they had a sweep. They had to at least win one and then stop the bleeding. They get killed by Buffalo. If the Jets get smoked again here, not only, I think, for all intents and purposes, is it over, the Aaron Rodgers coming back on Christmas Eve, I think they need to pump the brakes on that.
Makes
And
sense.
whether Aaron Rodgers wants to come back or not, and slow things down, but maybe we get an inspired defensive effort and Boyle, hits a slant to Garrett Wilson that goes for 70, and they hang around in this game.
It's a different Dolphins defense with Jalen Ramsey, though.
Yeah,
It really
Between
has
him
been.
and Jalen Phillips, they have two.
He's been very good.
Premier players, and they're getting better. But this is a Dolphins team that look at home. We're trying to stop Aiden O'Connell 2 different times from scoring a game-tying touchdown late in the fourth quarter.
True.
So they're not above
What
making
an
this thing
interception
interesting.
that was.
But they
by
also picked
Ramsey.
him off 3 times. Like, they also coaxed
No,
it.
they
because
made
of
it happen,
Ramsey.
and they were the better team in the game.
Yeah.
But it's
And
football.
Both Ramsey picks
He's
Insane.
were incredible plays. So he's turned back the clock. I was wondering whether he would be the same player he was with the Rams, which wasn't top form Ramsey last year, but he looks like a revitalized and healthy.
He had a weird career. He either is like the best cornerback in the league or
Yes.
not that close, but he's been the best cornerback like 4 times.
All right, let's now move to the primetime games, starting with Sunday Night Football. The Baltimore Ravens, they could have, well, they didn't do it alone because the injury to the quarterback plays a big role, but they might have ended the Bengals season last Thursday night. And I have a bone to pick. I didn't bring it up on the Thursday recap. I am filing a formal protest in the lock challenge to get all the data removed from the season because I would have never locked the Bengals on the road against the Ravens if I knew the quarterback, Joe Burrow, had a busted wrist. They hid that from me as well,
I
Greggy.
didn't think of that.
I would have never.
So eradicate the
Go-
entire
yeah, the whole thing
contest.
needs to
I'm
be
with you.
a bomb dropped on it.
Yeah.
Hey, listen to the preview when I locked up the Bengals. I basically said this is a bad pick, but I believe in Joe Burrow, and it's me and Joe against the world. And they were hiding a crippling wrist injury. How dare you,
The
Cincinnati?
Bengals single-handedly took you down because I remember you went against them when they played the Niners, and then you said you're going to pick them every week.
They
they
ended my
lost.
season as well. I lost 3 weeks in a row with
What
Cincinnati.
if we could vote to have you have a chance? This was to have 2 locks this week.
They're
to make
showing
up
they're
one.
showing the standings here. I'm at
Greg,
10-1.
10-1.
The Wesleyan Bros at 8-3, and Hanzus and Sessler at 5-6.
If you added our
That's
wins
bad.
together,
That's rough.
wow.
But we're going to eradicate this. So.
yeah, this means nothing.
I'm fine with that.
False
I've been
data.
trying to do that for years.
And you know what? This season, or we could just start from scratch. And
Let's start from
everyone's 0
scratch
zero.
now.
The
Yeah.
season doesn't start till after Thanksgiving.
There we go.
I don't support that.
I think the zookeeper Nick Wessling, by the way, he's 8-3, and he was starting to feel out what he was like, the character he's building for the show. And by the way, Chris, watching down to wherever he is, having a ball watching Nick enjoying himself and feeling himself on the show. But remember, he was leaning a little too hard. If you look at some of those early picks, like showman type picks, that were really overly risky.
A Jets one, I
I
believe.
think a Jets pick was in the mix.
He got the Jets against the Giants. That was the lucky.
Yeah.
No, but there was another.
But there was, I think, in the beginning of the season, I wonder if he could do it over again. He would have reined in the showman, and maybe he'd be with Gregg at 10-1. But they haven't lost in weeks, I don't think. So
he can't help but be a showman.
it's a 2-horse race.
It's about me.
There he is, the great Chris Wessling. You know, I was thinking the Chris and Lakeisha lived a town away from where I am now. I think like going on double dates with Chris and Lakeisha, and maybe we'd all be together on Thanksgiving.
Well, there were a number of times that Wes and I came over. After that first Seattle-San Francisco game, we came over to your place for Thanksgiving.
That's
right.
right.
The only time
you even had macaroni and cheese.
That's the only time I've ever eaten mac and cheese.
It was Texas style,
Well,
so it had a little bit of a different consistency that I think you
wasn't
were open
Velveeta
to.
based or whatever. You know.
But yes, I wish Chris was with us right now. You know, he pops up in your mind.
I think
all
of
the
that
time.
in the holidays when my family leaves me. They were my adopted family during the holidays. I could go spend Christmas.
Always open arms, the Westlings with Lakeisha. Happy Thanksgiving to Lakeisha and Link and everyone back in St. Louis. All right, here we go. Where were you? Oh, yeah, so the Cincinnati Bengals screwed me, and that's the past. Now, the Ravens at 8-3 with a real chance here at the number 1 seed in the AFC get a Chargers team. I don't know, Greg, Mark. They stink. That's all. That's my data points on this one. They keep getting primetime games, but we wanted to make the Chargers a thing this year. The league wanted to make them a thing, and they're just never going to be a thing. At least not with Brandon Staley.
No, we're
maybe with Bill Belichick.
Yeah. So it'll start all over again, sure, in the offseason. But we're post Chargers at this point. We talked about it a lot on Sunday night. How the Brandon Staley press conference for me marked like a bookend where he just became so
the beginning
thorny.
and the end.
Yeah, and it's like that stuff matters. You got to wonder what's happening with the locker room because I see it as like it is sort of 2 lightning rod quarterbacks that have their little flocks, and like Lamar Jackson experience is that he's in a team that's very well coached, and Brandon Staley is coaching the other quarterback, Justin Herbert, who's like lost more one-score games over the past couple of seasons than any quarterback in the league, and it's not his fault. The defense that should be Staley's staple has allowed 300 yards passing in half of their 10 games. So this is a big opportunity for Baltimore to come on the road into an problematic stadium. It's going to be a Ravens crowd, probably like every other week, but you don't have Mark Andrews. And that's Mark Andrews has accounted for 20% of their yardage through the air and half of Lamar Jackson's touchdowns. And I think that's a big loss. He's the core of that offense. It's like a lot of pressure on Odell Beckham, who's arrow up last couple of weeks, but I don't know if like without Mark Andrews, you're not the same offense.
It's funny because even before Andrews got hurt, my number one concern, I thought the one thing that's going to decide whether the Ravens can maybe go win this Super Bowl or not is can the wide receivers in Lamar be consistent and explosive enough on a week-to-week basis to go win a ship? Because I think they have the opportunity. I think they've shown flashes. Hasn't been consistent. This matchup is great for that for that happening because there's always blown coverages. You look last week, the defenders are talking right before the Packers hit some big plays down the field. They're not clear on assignments. Everything is just counting on Herbert to play his best. I think he's played easily his best 2 games of the season in a row the last 2 weeks, and they lost. They lost them both.
Yeah.
I mean, easily his best 2. And I saw a stat. It was from Arjun Manan. Not familiar with him before. He has some good stats. He pointed out since week 2, if you just have the Chargers' success rate on running plays, since then it would be the worst rushing team in the last decade. That's how bad they are on a down-to-down basis running. So they have so many different things going wrong from them. I couldn't believe it.
Did you see that Eckler run I was talking about on Sunday?
Yes. Yeah, that was tough.
With the piano on the back?
That was not great.
That was Kellen Moore was brought in to change all that.
So they like you worry about Brandon Staley a little bit in a primetime game. Primetime games are kind of when changes sometimes happen. And I looked at the number at this game, and it's 3.5, and I'm thinking that's crazy for it to be 3.5. And you know how they have those little sides on the SoFi Stadium. It's not totally a closed air environment.
Yes.
And at
Wait a
night,
minute.
sometimes you can get that rain
Oh.
coming in sideways. And that's
Uh-oh.
why for the holiday season, we're going to be helping out all the boys and girls in the land. It's going to be raining in Las Vegas, Los Angeles,
Oh.
Sunday night. And we're locking it up, too. We're doubling it up. We're double the pleasure. It's
All
like
right.
a little gravy. You mix everything together, the collard greens, the mashed potatoes.
Sure, you gotta watch this on whatever fast channel or YouTube just to see the Rainmaker video component here.
It's so terrible.
It's not Greg at his most handsome because he's a handsome person in general.
So Erica created this, you're saying, and it was after a fight that you guys had? Very volcanic relationship, the two of you.
Was that a vengeance?
You're wearing your glasses, so you must have had like some type of maybe a stigma or,
I like
pink eye.
wearing glasses, but I definitely
The
look
tie.
like this was a path not taken at
Why are you wearing a
low-level
tie?
You look like you're at your
insurance
first
sales.
communion, Greg. Well, that's, or I guess for you, a bar mitzvah.
No, I'm the State Farm agent, and I'm gonna get you a good price on that home and auto.
Very nice. Very nice. I like it. Is this your lock of the week, or is this just
I'm
the
locking it up
Rainmaker?
too. I'm
Doubled it
locking
up.
it up.
Oh,
too.
it's a
Doubling
double.
It up. I'm
Double.
mishmashing.
What could go
Do
wrong?
it.
You've went from picking the Chargers to win the Super Bowl to just going way on the other side of them. But I can't question anything, Greg, because you've had the golden touch this year with really everything. But I have to say, I think it needs to be said, this close to the holidays, to pull the Rainmaker, there's going to be a lot of people out there. They're going to go all in this because Santa Claus has to come to town. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you understand there's a great responsibility that you have here to make sure this one's right.
I do, but look, I don't tell what our listeners what to do. All I'm saying, if you had just been following our locks every week for 11 straight weeks and doing the money line, you'd be doing pretty well. You'd be doing
We're in a show where we're covering 16 games, which is
Yeah, we gotta
unprecedented.
pick it up.
So
We
we're
gotta
going
pick it
to have, I would say, 4 to 5 more self-promotional dialogues from Greg.
Monday Night
Than normal.
Football. Let's move on. And I'm with you. I think the Ravens and the Chargers are two franchises going in opposite directions. So, but I would never put someone else's money and Christmas morning on the line.
It's unprofessional.
That's some people have different viewpoints on society and what they give to it. All right, here we go. The Bears. What do we got? What are the Bears doing here? What do we got Bears in primetime again? Why are we doing this? Nobody wants this.
I don't know. We've had this conversation
Bears fans don't want
year
this.
after year. No.
The Bears are last place in the North. Justin Fields playing, of course, for a future in Chicago. And they get the Vikings, the team of around the NFL that had a gut punch loss on Sunday Night Football, as we all know, 21-20 to the Broncos. But here is a very nice get-right spot. Both teams, it's their last game before they go into a bye week. I absolutely believe that the Vikings will take care of business in easy manner against the Bears and hit thereby feeling good because they are the team around the NFL. And I think Josh Dobbs is going to really have a big day. And when they get back from the bye, they'll be comfortably in the playoff picture with Justin Jefferson hopefully back on the field.
I'm with you, and I agree with you so much that with this music as the background, I am locking this team up, the Minnesota Vikings.
Are they in the zone?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. I didn't look. But
3.5. The Bears are getting.
Oh, I'm with you, buddy.
Let's do it.
Lock Bros.
All right, we're in last
go.
place.
Does not
Just
make
right
me feel great as a fan of the team around the NFL. But
Let's go.
Come on.
Let's go.
Why, Greg? I guess you could look.
well,
at
just because of your records. But also, actually, the Bears are playing.
Well, we're
pretty
0-0.
Yeah.
Because I
We're
just got
0-0.
breaking news. Just heard from Paul Giamatti, son of Bartlett Giamatti, commissioner of the Lock Committee.
He's
Yes, they are wiping clean.
okay. Good to know.
Because of the Joe Burrow injury failure for an injury designation in the Week 11 Thursday night affair against the Ravens, wiping all standings. So
How
we're
does
all
that affect
0-0.
your other 5 losses?
No, it's like a little
Talk to Paul Giamatti.
little drop of food coloring in a glass of water. There. That's
I'm-
the whole thing.
I'm a little worried about this game for the Vikings, though, just because Fields played awesome last week. I thought he was the best, one of the best players on the field, one of his best games. It's coming off 2 really good performances before he got hurt as well. Their defense has been better / respectable. I get why it's 3.5. Like, I'm taking the Vikings certainly in this game, but the Bears are trending a little up. There's no Justin Jefferson. Like, every game's an adventure.
Give me that
for the
horn again,
Vikings
Eric.
team.
Come here.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm with you, Greg, in the sense that like you could look at how the game started up until the collapse against Detroit and say have the Bears turned a corner a little bit.
They were dominating that game.
That's what I'm saying. But then you also collapsed. But
that was defensively, yeah.
But I like to see the ceiling versus where they were 2 months ago. Why are we getting this audio, by the way?
What do you mean? The team around the NFL.
This is like the thing they played.
Oh, Mark. Come on. You don't know they blow the horn the whole thing?
I'd like to just play it the whole show. That part I know.
Do you know this one?
Yes, I do. I've heard that roughly 7,000 times.
All right, anything else on this game?
Got to keep that running game going. I like that they got Madison going for the first time in forever last week.
All right, there we go. So that is the Thanksgiving games, Black Friday, prime time. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll do the draft. All right, welcome back. It is time for the draft. Everybody, get ready. It's time for the first overall pick presented by DraftKings. Cess Dog.
He's back.
He's the Cess Dog. By the way, do we have the Cess Dog song? How about that Cess Dog song to get the draft going?
Wasn't aware of that.
I didn't know.
Oh, the Cess Dog. Guess what, buddy? We got something for you.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, now that we're all back together in the studio for the first time.
Well, let me hear it before I comment on it. Yeah.
I am Marc Sessler. Everybody, just listen up. Time for you to hear my stuff. Everybody can't get enough. I am Marc Sessler. Everybody, just listen up. Time for you to hear my stuff. Everybody can't get enough. Top 10 football insider. I'm a top 10 football insider. I am Marc Sessler.
What do you think?
Everybody, just listen up. Time for you to hear
It's
my
catchy.
stuff.
I could imagine playing in a loop in my car driving
I
around.
think it captures the spirit of Mark.
Definitely.
Very right said Fredish.
Definitely. You're inside Mark's brain on like a Saturday.
That's what I'm telling myself, over and over on repeat. I want to know who did it.
Hobart Curtis. Only a man named Hobart could have something that genius inside his own mind.
Yeah, it could be a pen name or a artistic cover, but I like it. Thank you, Hobart.
All right, you have the first pick.
All right, I'm going to take Cleveland at Denver. I know last week I didn't go there in that direction. I got a lot of hubbub, and it's like I want to make one thing real clear, real fast. Like I'm getting all these tweets like, "Oh, are you like a Browns fan again?" It's like I don't like anything they've done over the last year in terms of one specific subject. Like I can care about some of the other players, and I kind of think this team is a little bit interesting to me because they were a rotting corpse on defense for so long, and this is a weird team. And we're seeing
That's a yes, by the way, for all the.
It's just like no, it's like I haven't really. It's
Stop dancing around it, Mark.
I'm not dancing around. It's like I'm getting people saying like, oh, you like backed off, and it's like.
But if you just say it, if you just say it,
well, no, I'm
just gonna ask you anymore.
I just said it basically.
But you did.
I'm watching this defense.
He's gonna
and
keep
I'm like,
getting the tweets now because he didn't actually say it.
Come into the light.
I'm not like
I
I think a couple years from now I could come back and be a full-fledged Browns fan. That is what I would say. And it's like it's the insinuations left and right are like foggy and stupid. So it's like please leave it alone.
Okay. So in a couple of years you'll be a Browns fan again.
Maybe. I'm not right now in the way that I was before. And that never will be the same case. I don't know how to describe it. Just will never be the same.
All right, with your first overall pick, the Browns. Go ahead.
I am taking this game. I think this is, for two reasons.
For the ninth time in 10 weeks. Go ahead, Mark.
No, for two reasons. Because I think this team is kind of fascinating to watch. Like, their defense is historically insane. And they have created, if they had a more competent offense, like, I think they'd be fairly unstoppable as an overall team because they've forced 3-and-outs at a higher rate than any club this entire century. That's not easy to do. It's over 50%. Because of this, the Browns' offense has run 182 more plays than their opponents, which is more than double than the next team.
Wow.
Like, they are shutting down drives, and their offense is being given the ball back at a quicker, faster, more dangerous pace. But Cleveland's offense is 29th in EPA per game, 23rd in points per drive, and 30th in yards per play. We know they're working around injuries, but it's like the one thing I find interesting is that this is the opposite of a fractured team. Like that would be they're winning, so that changes some of it. But this would be the medicine or the setup for like the defense to be revolting. Instead, like everything they've said, everything they've done as an overall group has been the opposite of that. I think that's to the credit of Kevin Stefanski, who
As long as you win.
As long as you win, it does.
You won't
change.
have players-only meetings.
Right.
You won't have grumbling
right.
from wide
They
receivers.
also won a game 39-38 and 33-31. So the defense knows that in some big spots, their offense has actually bailed them out.
Yes, that's true. There were different players involved at that point. But I would just say, like, this Denver team is completely different than the team that we focused on early. They're like 5th in defense overall right now over the last 5 weeks. Like we saw them on Monday night or on Sunday night look much more competent on offense too, and that's been the case with Russell Wilson for a while. And I will say, when you go into the altitude thing, I'll never forget. I went with a family, with a couple of families went on a ski trip to Colorado back when I was like in 6th grade, and like you fly into Denver and you think like this is going to be fine, we're going to go skiing, and like me and this girl from another family like had to stay home the first day and watch like I Love Lucy all morning because we were like throwing up left and right with altitude sickness. So I always factor that in.
Okay.
Cleveland's had a tough time in Denver historically in my childhood.
Toughy atmosphere.
Minor note, but
I think, Mark, that and you look at like their schedule the rest of the way. I pretty much see all games that are going to come down to about a field goal.
Yeah.
I think that's just who the way the offense is built, and you got to give Thompson Robinson some credit because he made throws that you kind of got to make to be playing at this level. But on that last drive, he hit on 3 completions that got him in field goal range, and then they get the kick, and away we go. I think you're going to be white-knuckling it throughout the season here, but they have something special. Every team needs something special if you want to play in January football that counts, and they have this defense. So as long as the offense doesn't blow their season, and I don't think they will, because I think Stefanski is going to play this right where he's going to play conservative games. So I think 13-10 type games are going to happen a lot, and I think it's going to happen here against Denver as well.
Right. They're kind of in a similar spot as the Jets, except they have a better defense ultimately. As schedules helped, but a better defense and a better play caller, I think, is important. A better overall offensive system. The Broncos are 2.5-point favorites in this game. The over/under's 35, but that is so low. But I totally get it. I like the Browns in this game. I took the Browns last week. I hope Seth Spice, finally gets on board with the Browns.
Seth Spice. Spice doesn't know this, but Seth made an alteration to the Seth Spice picks, and the Browns have been picked.
Wow.
It's almost like a head coach making a change of play caller, because at a certain point, it's your responsibility. It is not Spice Sess, it's Seth Spice to control the enterprise and do what's right for the
It's the
entire
only
group.
tweak I made because I think I'm working with a savant.
Right.
I really do.
I think this is a reckoning, though, for Russell Wilson. I'm a little tired of the old Russ is back, and they're doing.
Oh, you hate it. You
such a
hate
great
that
job.
he's having a nice
Well,
year.
first of all, he's nowhere near the old Russ.
That's not what we're saying.
They're treating him like
Who's saying that?
he's a rookie quarterback. Second,
Take your straw man with you.
it's not a straw man. There's a lot of they're doing a great job. At some point, they have to advance from where they are. By far, the fewest air yards in the league per throw, Russell Wilson. So they're treating him like he's Dorian Thompson-Robinson. His career, he's never been under 8.2. He's at 6.8 right now.
Greg, they're playing really well, and
this is
he's
the
made
reckoning.
a lot of big throws for them. And
Sure.
he's not going to win the MVP.
I think most of us
because the defense has given them 12 extra possessions the last.
The idea
3
was
weeks.
that entering the
That's
season
it.
was that he was cooked.
He's
Most of us thought he'd be
looks
benched
close
by
to
now,
cooked. He
right?
looks-
He would have been benched by
Alright.
now.
I think this,
Okay.
if he can be effective against the Browns, and I don't mean light him up, but not be a reason that they lose, that would say a lot. I have my doubts.
He's not dangerous anymore.
No.
But he's not. He's still the entrenched starter. And
No, he reminds me so much of Teddy
Numbers are
Bridgewater
good.
under Sean Payton.
Okay.
That's exactly.
But you
who
love
he is.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Right.
You love him more than you love your children. And here you are, burying Russ still. What is it? What did he
It's a
do?
pretty good counter.
I'm not burying him. It's a good counter. Let's calm down.
All right, I hear it, and I know generally what you mean.
Find me the people that are hyped up, though. I mean, I think people are just saying he's not. Last year
Right.
was hard to watch.
I guess I would just push back on you saying they're different defensively than they were the first 5 weeks. They've been the same offensive team basically.
I
the
said
whole time.
I said defense
Yeah,
last
yeah,
5 weeks,
yeah.
and they've got 42 turnovers.
Greg,
Let's do Bills Eagles. That's the Tony Romo Jim Nantz game. Nice game.
why didn't you take this one, Mark?
Because I know
Like-
what happens. Everyone is going to be watching this. So it's like I don't like that dynamic where I pick a game that 17 people are talking about at the same time.
Whoa, that's an interesting.
Interesting.
Why does that matter?
You already knew that.
That is interesting.
That happened when I picked Cowboys Eagles, and it's like,
But you
why
just-
am I reporting on this game?
Messing
A
with-
It's like, this game's mine. I don't want your
No,
opinions
by
on it.
nature, by nature, a reporter should be able to offer something that the people he's reporting
bit of
to
a-
doesn't know. And it's like I'm talking to people who.
But
are
isn't
watching as close
I'd
as
rather
I do.
that than in the end we all kind of honk on all the games. So I'd rather have the game where other people are giving more informed.
I want to see how the altitude affects the
kind of
Cleveland Browns.
eye open. That was an eye opener there.
That was interesting.
That
And
is that is not an unusual or new comment for me.
And once again, for the second straight week, you're messing with the sanctity of the draft. Like,
No, I like
the
that.
first pick,
I like
the
it.
big game. We get into it.
I'm excited.
There's nothing I could have done that you would not have found a way to need.
You take Buffalo, Philly 1, and then you go back and you
You
get
know what?
Cleveland,
Can I be
Denver
honest?
2.
I'm bored with the Bills.
Okay, go ahead. You start then. Tell us
mean,
why you're bored.
Wow.
I am. I'm over it.
Not only is he doesn't want to talk about the game
I'm
that
over the
everyone's going to
Bills.
watch, he's taking my game.
I'm not.
He's introducing the
No,
game.
you go,
now.
Greg. You
No,
go. You go.
I like
I am.
this. It's
I am
funny.
bored with the Bills.
Why?
Like.
I want you to continue that.
First of all, like I just feel the energy around them. It's like I feel like they're on every week on national television. It's like an up and down affair. It's like good Josh Allen, bad Josh Allen. Like you used your play caller as your scapegoat scenario. Who's the next scapegoat? Because if they continue,
Well,
to
wait a second.
flounder-
Wait a second.
They'd have a nice-
Wait a second. They had a really nice showing. They won 32-6.
I know, but
I know
like,
the Jets
you
are
didn't
free
need
fall,
to
but-
fire. You didn't need like that. Like I thought that move was suspicious, and it signaled to me something weird going on.
But
in that
we
organization.
all agree with that general feeling around Buffalo. But in the here and now, they had an 80-yard play to Shakir and a beautiful throw by Allen. They played mistake-free football for the most part. They were everything that I think what Sean McDermott was hoping would come out of that firing, which was the offense looking good, the team playing cohesively.
You beat a broken down Jets team.
I'm
Yeah, but
just
that's,
saying.
that's all past. Like they got an Eagles matchup. They got everything in front of them. They're 6-5. I think this can still be a playoff team. I think this Eagles team has not been as good as their record. And I am curious, just this is a spot here for the Bills to change their season. And
Yes.
and I think
You're right.
I think they can do it. I am curious what they'll do on offense a little bit. You know, Shakir has emerged as their second best wide receiver in my mind. Kincaid has emerged as a big-time player. They started getting back into the two tight ends last week with Quentin Morris on the field. And they've been running well. Like, this is a chance for a team that's been consistently at the top of the game to basically erase everything that's happened before it. You go win this game, they know how big a game is. You did sense a different back against the wall type of energy with them, with Diggs on the sideline and giving all this leadership talk, and him and Allen are like loving each other. I know it's easier when it was a win, but even early in that game, I just sense this is a team that knows this is a big time of season, and they've been in some big time games, and I kind of think they're going to win this game. Like, I don't know if that's. I mean, I think it's a coin flip, but I kind of like them in this spot.
I feel like they are a very tough team to figure out what happens next in their season, because there is plenty of talent there, and they have a special quarterback who's been mistake prone, but maybe a come to Jesus moment with how things played out the last couple of weeks. And yes, this is such a huge inflection point moment in their season at Philly against an Eagles team that has one loss to the Jets, weirdly. But week after week, I watch them and I say, it's not like this team can't get picked off. And they're very good at home. And I very nearly locked them actually today. But even as I was thinking to myself, I was like, I don't know, man. Do I really think that Philly in their rocking chair right now at 9-1 is a team that is safe against the Buffalo team that's kind of got to have it with after their bye? They are at Kansas City v. Dallas.
Oof.
They kind of, this is in a lot of ways, and McDermott and behind the scenes, the way they're talking it up, like this is our season right here. And it's our chance to make a big statement. So I feel pretty good about the Bills too, and I it's a coin flip to me, but it would not surprise me.
I think the Eagles, unlike Buffalo, can win so many different ways, and they're in Philadelphia. I feel like we're not really giving the Eagles enough credit here.
Neither's the lines makers here. 3.5 points.
I could care less what they're doing.
Oh,
I don't like. I'm saying like this is like the Eagles are them and the Niners. There is no. I would never put Buffalo in the Eagles category.
Philly
right
is
now.
an excellent home team. There's no.
I mean, they find so many different ways to win, and the way they did it against Kansas City, it's just like I don't know.
Defensively, I'm with you. I think the Bills will have a hard time stopping Jalen Hurts and this running game the way they looked last. They didn't do great for most of that game against Kansas City, but just personnel-wise. I mean, Jason Kelce, that was like a Hall of Fame resume type of game for Jason Kelce. It's the year of Jason Kelce.
Oh, did you see
Somehow.
that? Do you see that one clear out block where he sprinted down the field at like
It was crazy.
15 yards?
Well, people he makes center look. It makes it fun to play center.
So I think they can mow down the Bills, but I just got a feeling seasons change so many times, and I just think these two teams, I don't feel that much differently than I did coming into the season, where they both have a chance still to do a lot.
I got predictably some pushback from certain corners of Philadelphia or Pennsylvania about my comments about Nick Sirianni, who sometimes just needs a little whack in the head just to be like, shh.
You had it down to like a woman's glove that she'd take off and slap it with the glove.
You go, stop it. Yeah. And I heard from some Eagles fans, including our buddy Dan Soupy Campbell from the Wonder Years, who was not happy with my commentary. And then, and just the way it is, and you could say I'm right or I'm wrong. I think a lot of you know that I'm right about this. Then I get this video sent my way from right after the Chiefs game of Sirianni heading towards the tunnel.
You don't find too many coaches doing that.
You know that there was, or I'm going to posit that there was at least, first of all, he's getting a lot of grief from Chiefs fans, I'm sure, during the game, but there was probably just one comment in there from some Chiefs fan during the game that stuck in his craw, and it didn't get out of his head, and he's fired.
I know you love it, Greg. Nick Sirianni.
Why do you have to take it? Why do you have to take it from these goons in the crowd? You should be able to
by the
yell
way,
back.
can we at least have some general self-awareness, like you won the game because a guy dropped a ball in the end zone. So why don't we just get to the locker room and get on the bus and get out of town?
I mean,
Nick Sirianni.
The Chiefs win a Super Bowl because of a holding call. You don't apologize for
Let me see that again. I want to watch that again. I mean, this is the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, ladies and gentlemen. The head coach.
I kind of love it. What's worse? You had Mike Ditka throwing gum into someone's hair. Remember that?
That's from NBC Sports Philly. Nick Sirianni is your friend who got arrested for a road rage incident. Nick Sirianni is the guy who doesn't. Sirianni is the guy who doesn't pay his fantasy dues before the deadline because, quote, you could take it out of my winnings. Nick Sirianni is the guy who said he's never listened to the Beatles before because they suck. Nick Sirianni, I got some more. This one I asked Zumwalt to write me a few. This one's from my buddy Bob. Nick Sirianni still has a subscription to Maxim. Let's see. I got a couple more here. Nick Sirianni proudly claims Bradley Cooper's character from Silver Linings Playbook was crafted after him. Nick Sirianni has never met a mascot he couldn't punch in the fake face.
What is
Nick Sirianni is the friend who hangs out at your house to use your Wi-Fi so he can apply for jobs. That's the guy. That's your hero, Nick Sirianni.
The most accurate one there was the guy who doesn't play his league fees because he could take it out of my winnings. That's so good.
Nick Sirianni has multiple Instagram photos with friends where they're all doing. Oh, I actually can't say that. All right, let's. Come on, Bob. I can't work that blue. Reading in real time. All right. The zoo.
The zoo. You mentioned earlier that you were going to lock up the Eagles, switched off, did a little lock play date with Mark, but somebody weighed in and has their opinion on the Eagles.
All right, let's hear it.
Hello, heroes. Yeah, you guessed it. I'm feeling myself after last week's loss. Taking a 4-point underdog on the road against Patrick
They were
Mahomes.
2.5. He keeps bumping this up. Inaccurate. 2.5. 2.5.
All
Let him
year,
talk.
you guys have had this narrative that the zoo doesn't have it together. Guess what? We're coming after you, Greggy. You play your conservative game just like the NFL. You play conservative, you go home. Bottom line is, I have to do this video because you didn't take the 6.5-point favorite last week. You only took a 4-point home favorite. That's fine again. You play your game, we'll play ours.
Hey, what was last
We're
week?
coming after that trophy, baby. And this week, we're flying high with the Eagles again. I told you all year, the Bills aren't making the playoffs. They take another step back this week. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and the rest of the gang fly high. Lock it up.
Happy Thanksgiving to all of the Wesley.
Happy Thanksgiving to Nick. I wish I was there. I love he gets fiery on the text, but then he also sends very, very nice texts. It's the duality of man. But I have to just point out factually, he's always lying about these spreads.
Oh, boy.
The Ravens were a 2.5-point favorite last week. It's always inflating. His team was only a 2.5-point. So it's just like, come up with the facts when you're going to throw a number out. Don't just lie. We're clocking you, Nick. I'm clocking you.
Nick Sirianni's girlfriend wants you to know he's really not like this when it's just the two of them.
Oh, my God. We're so behind pace.
All right. I am up. Here we go. It's Thanksgiving. We're having a nice, fun preview show. Everybody's enjoying. Everybody's listening right now with a big smile on their face. Now, the people behind the glass doing the show with us,
yeah, they could have been at home 30 minutes ago.
Filled with rage. But I'm going to try to speed it up now, starting with our next game. I am picking, and I feel like I keep missing every week, like wherever I'm drafting. When I'm at the top of a draft board, nothing good.
Right.
When I'm at the bottom of the draft board, both games get picked. Let's see. I am up, and I will grab Chiefs at Raiders.
Not the best Sunday.
Nope. And I find the Chiefs to be a deeply frustrating watch, but I also am kind of fascinated by what Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are going to do to get out of this mess. It is a 8.5-point spread, and I do kind of owe the Raiders an apology because I thought that the Dolphins were going to kind of bring them back down to earth. And while they didn't win the game, like we said, they kept it close and had multiple chances down the stretch to even potentially steal that game. So credit where credit is due. The firing of Josh McDaniels has really sparked this team. Antonio Pierce deserves a lot of credit, and the rest of that team, because those things could go two ways. It could also go the other way where you stop competing and you get blown out by 3 touchdowns every week. The Raiders are in it to win it, or at least attempt to win it. So I would say the Chiefs, coming off a wildly frustrating loss to the Eagles, a game that they lost in 5 different ways, are going to show up angry. And Travis Kelce, coming off one of his worst games ever, is going to go off in this game. And Mahomes is going to make it happen and make it rain points. But at this point, I can't do it anymore. I can't just assume the Chiefs can turn it on. I've seen them do it maybe once this season. It was a first half, I believe, against the Cardinals, where they were kind of totally just cooking. And since
Bears,
then,
yeah.
The Bears, and they were even shut out, I think, in the second half of that game or close to it. Can that team show up again? Maybe. But it's also very possible this game, Mark, is 20-14 in the fourth quarter.
I could see that. I like the Dolphins defense the Raiders defense with Patrick Graham running the show. You want to look at their offense post Josh McDaniels. And it was really good at game A, not so good against the Dolphins, up and down. But their defense, I thought, gave Miami a lot of problems. If you take Tyreek Hill out of that game, and I understand that's not how it works, but like they really coaxed Tua into some mistakes. They played with a lot more aggression. I just think that this team needed this change. I see the Raiders through new eyes. And the microcosm with the Chiefs is that they haven't figured out this overall global problem with their passing game. But inside of like games itself, like they haven't figured it out in the second half. They've scored 1 second-half touchdown or 1 fourth-quarter touchdown. They're in these close games. And I'm with you. They're on the road here. And it's like, what's so different from a couple days ago when Donna Kelce, like the most famous mom in America, is watching her son and the Chiefs melt down in a huge moment on Monday Night Football?
Well, I think the difference is, well, the weather helps, you're indoors, but mostly that you're playing against Aiden O'Connell and that your defense showed me a lot on Monday night.
We didn't talk about that enough, how great that defense was.
Their defense is
against
Super Bowl
Philly.
level.
Right. They didn't give up. Even despite all those possessions the Chiefs kept giving them, it was under 250 yards. And that was a show-me-something game for the Chiefs defense, too, where, man, it's very much a sign of the 2023 season. You think back to that Super Bowl and these 2 MVP candidates, Hurts and Mahomes, going up and down the field. That's 2022. Fast forward to 2023, and it's a defensive slugfest, and the Chiefs are a legit there's no more waiting around. They're a legit top 5 defense, and that against a rookie quarterback who's not bad, but is a little robotic, going through his reads and everything. It's a lot to handle, and I just think they can wear you down because until that second half, and even really the fourth quarter, it's like I was impressed that the Chiefs are moving the ball. They can run the ball. They're tough up front. They're not explosive, but I think they can find a way to be efficient and beat, relatively undermanned teams.
I would say the one thing I am confident about is Kelsey and Mahomes getting back on the right page, and maybe that leads to a big day, and that carries them, because I don't think the Chiefs' defense is going to give up a lot of points here. I think the Raiders could struggle to get to double digits, or 2 touchdowns could be asking a lot. So it feels like it sets up well for Casey to get right. I'd like to see, because we know Watson ain't it, and we know Tony ain't it, and we know insert player here ain't it. Maybe Rashee Rice, like we've talked about him, like maybe he's
Tony
the
as
guy.
a running back. That was kind of fun.
Okay, I mean they got to use him in inventive ways to get the most out of him. But Rice, we've kind of all circled as maybe he's the guy that needs to step up. Somebody does, or it's not going to happen for the Chiefs. Let's move on. Snakes to me, really not great, but maybe even this one kind of sticks it to Greg. It's not on purpose, Greg, because I'm sure you wanted to watch it. Saints at Falcons, great rivalry.
That does stick it to me.
These teams hate.
I really wanted to watch it because this to me is a perfect Saints-Falcons game.
These teams hate each other. These fan bases despise and detest one another. There's nothing out of bounds between Saints fans and Falcons fans, and now they're fighting for first place in the NFC South. I'm not sure what we have going on in the quarterback situation for New Orleans, but what I do know is that Desmond Ridder is the starting quarterback in the plan now from Arthur Smith, genius of all geniuses, is that it is Desmond Ridder's team for the rest of the year, and they will sink or swim with Ridder. I have my theories what will happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised by this, especially with Heineke getting a little banged up before the bye, but it sounds like this was the plan all along.
A reset.
Arthur
What are they
Smith.
just giving him a mental rest, basically?
Exactly, and that they want to make this thing happen. And look, it's year 3. They haven't been to the playoffs. They haven't had a winning record with Arthur Smith. It is very rare, and Robert Saleh is probably thinking about this too, for a guy to get a 4th year if you haven't made the playoffs or had a winning record. It's extremely rare. So he's putting his whole career on the line here for Ridder versus the Saints defense, which will be without Marshawn Lattimore, will be without Michael Thomas, and as Dan mentioned, Carr, as we're taping Wednesday morning, is uncertain. He's still in the concussion protocol, but there's varying levels
off the bye.
of what that
That's
means.
not a good sign.
But sometimes that just means, sometimes it means you can practice, and by the end of the week, you're cleared.
I'm not I know that there are bigger Derek Carr fans than me. That's overt, but I'm not convinced that whether it's Carr or Jameis Winston, that it's there's that much of a gap or a chasm between the two. This year's version of Derek Carr.
Oh man, Saints fans are so tired of Derek Carr. They would agree with you. They think they're getting the worst of Derek.
Didn't we sort of say this is probably how you'll be feeling frustrated and agitated by now? But I also think if you got the best version of Derek Carr, that would not be the way. But it's that he's not clicked with his offense. He hasn't even been Andy Dalton. And if anything, Jameis, the floor is insane, but the ceiling might be a little bit better if you get a wacky high ceiling level version of Winston. I kind of like it.
That's when my pushback comes in. I can't stand here and hear Derek Carr slander, and then we're going to be like, but if you get the best version of Jameis Winston, there is no best version of Jameis Winston.
They're different. They're not. One is not better than the other. They're just different.
All right, here's why they're kind of apples and apples, even though they're different players. Derek Carr is Derek Carr is Derek Carr is Derek Carr. Jameis Winston is Jameis Winston is Jameis Winston is Jameis Winston. It's always going to be a turnover fest with some high-level throws mixed in. And if that's what you want, Saints fans, if you just want a little bit more of a roller coaster, I hear you, but be careful what you wish for, because everywhere that guy's gone, he's lost, and he's lost his job eventually. So whatever you sign up for, but it's also
the difference is one is making $30+ million a year and is guaranteed money into next year. So the frustration level with that.
But they should have known.
Yeah,
they should have known. He was always going to be, in my opinion, an upgrade over Winston, but he was never the answer. He kind of just a bridge to something.
He has this crazy combo, Carr, of both avoiding hits to an extreme degree by always getting rid of the ball too quickly and not going through his reads, and that's something that Winston will do. He'll give his playmakers a chance. But then he also takes insanely difficult and massive hits. So it's sort of this weird combo that occasionally he just hold on to the ball way too long, and he'll take a huge hit, and he'll get hurt inside the pocket. The Saints are underdogs in this game. A little
1
surprising,
point.
but only 1 point in Atlanta. This Falcons defense has quietly been disappointing, getting a little worse throughout the course of the season. I really think This is just a huge game for these two teams. I am annoyed. I'm
annoyed now.
I'm honestly rethinking my draft strategy. Should I have taken this number 1 overall? I might have to work a trade.
Well, I'll do a trade with you.
I mean,
I'm
gonna
annoyed
cost
now.
for freaking Saints Falcons. How dumb is that?
I don't know. What'd you say, Mark?
I'm annoyed now.
You wanted it too.
I
You
definitely,
took
I definitely didn't. This
Browns,
was not on my radar.
Browns, Broncos, pick one. You probably meant a different
Yes,
game.
pick one happened 77 minutes ago. So
All right, you're up.
I am up. I'll take the first Jaguars Texans division crown game of the week.
a great
Okay,
game.
now I feel pretty good. Forgot
Sure.
that was there.
Pinch yourself.
a lot of internal monologue from Greg here being spouted out in public.
Well, I just that's
I'll
I
trade
feel-
you. I'll trade you that game for Saints, Falcons,
feel-
and a first.
no. Now I feel differently.
Next
I'm just
week.
gonna take the draft as it came. It was meant to be. I get to watch CJ Stroud. He is a 1.5 point underdog. Wow. If I had known that, heck, should we bring out the Rainmaker again? No, let's not go that far. But I like the Texans in this
Greg, you
game.
know you're talking out loud, right?
I like to bring the people in, bring them inside the mind. 1.5 point favorites. Jag.
Chaotic.
I'm gonna go full like morning Fox FS1 show here.
Go ahead.
Just pose a question, which you already know the answer to based on my question.
Got it.
Would you rather have CJ Stroud or Trevor Lawrence?
Oh.
Period. Because I'd rather have
Good
CJ
question.
Stroud.
It's a
I'm
good
already
question.
taking him for his career.
Has Trevor Lawrence had highs that have approached C.J. Stroud's highs? Yes. Has Trevor Lawrence been in the league now for what? This is his third year. I think this is the first time where this season where I'm like, man, maybe he's not the generational talent that he was hyped up to be.
He's
And
really
maybe
good.
he's just a good to very good quarterback. Do I think that Lawrence, if everything lined up right, has a Super Bowl level quarterback potentially? Yes. Stroud, however, has just been fantastic as a rookie. So it's kind of like you almost have to go with Stroud. You almost have to, right?
For me, because I think one thing that's a development that we didn't see coming that's pretty great for an AFC South that's been milquetoast for a long time is that for the next 15 years, these two quarterbacks are going to go at each other like a Manning and Brady type situation,
And
I think.
hopefully Richardson gets in that mix. I'm
And
not putting
Richardson
him there,
too,
but he's fun.
I'm not putting him there yet. But I would say this. It's like whenever I pick between those two, I always was a Brady guy. Like, it's just how they make me feel. And, like, Stroud has changed the way I feel about this season. And I think Lawrence is awesome, but he's just Trevor Lawrence to me. Like, I feel the way you feel about C.J. Stroud. And watching him play, I think it's also so exciting that he just toppled the draft community in terms of the S2 test. I've talked about all that. That's always been on my radar. And it's like, we need to see players differently. And like CJ Stroud's response, like people are like are
in fairness, again, like a ton of people had Stroud first. Like
I
the
know,
draft
I
mix,
know,
mean.
I understand that.
And
But
he went number 2 overall.
like our research packet asked, like, can CJ Stroud recover from his 3 interception performance? It's like, he already made that clear in the post-game comments. He's like, I'm going to keep throwing the ball the way I do it. And, like, he was literally not affected by all.
Is that a shot against the NFL research
No. Like,
packet?
it's just a topic. It's like he had his first really rough game turnover-wise after in this hot streak. And it's like, I have full trust that he'll recover.
This is a great game. Before we move on, just like they take over first place in the AFC South, Dan. They win the Texans.
That was quick.
They're going to win playoff games.
But they're 2 back if they lose, and they no longer have the tiebreaker anymore because they have split. So it's a huge game. And the Jags, to their credit, really changed up what they did last week. They got a lot of criticism for dink and dunk, and they went heavy play action, the deepest targets they had all year. It helped that Zay Jones was back. All of Calvin Ridley's big games have been with Zay on the field because then you can move Ridley around anymore. So they were much more aggressive, way more play action. I think you'll see more of that. It was a little more of the Trevor you want to see. So that's good. It was a different Jags team.
One quick thing, like, because you know how you have the 17th game and they throw in like another division that you play? It's like the tick here was that the Jaguars got the Niners and got totally clocked, and the Texans got the Cardinals. I do wonder if you are the Houston Texans we're seeing right now, would you have lost, 34-3 to San Francisco? I think they give them a better fight.
I don't think they're losing 34-3 against anyone. But this is
This is why I hate that Fox stuff sometimes, like Fox taking a strike. Because I still do believe in Trevor Lawrence. I just think it hasn't kind of come together this year the way it has. And also Stroud's on pace to throw for like 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns as a rookie. So there's just you can't go wrong with either one. I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a big test for them though against a really good Jags defense too. So I'm not necessarily assuming it's going to be all roses here.
Here is, by the way, the research notes the full setup. Mark, will rookie phenom C.J. Stroud, the little pop off the top rope.
That's fair.
Start, bounce back after 3 INT game, but this is an important close against the NFL's most opportunistic defense.
It wasn't a me versus the research packet like scenario. Okay. I said like, the answer I already had in my head. Yes, he will. Yes, he even did in the last game.
I think what they're getting across is that Jacksonville is aggressive and opportunistic, and CJ likes to throw the ball. Yes,
they use the word opportunistic.
Yes, they're an aggressive team that kind of they have a nose for the ball, Mark, and Stroud is not afraid.
I am not trying to confront an entire department here within the building. They do excellent work, and I use their product.
Oh, the guy in the trench coat's coming through.
I know. Just be careful here.
All right, let's move on. Mark, you're up next.
It's getting ugly. But I'm going to go Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. AFC North, tracking that division, like the most interesting division in football right now. As much as C.J. Stroud and the Texans make me excited for this season as a completely new story, what's happened to the Bengals is the worst thing that's happened to the entire league. We lost, I think, the MVP in Joe Burrow. We lost what I think could have been the AFC champion in the Cincinnati Bengals. And now you're in a world where Jake Browning is taking over.
No!
We don't know a lot about him. He looked pretty good in the preseason, I thought, to some degree. He's 27. The one thing I was just trying to read what people were saying about him in general, and it's like, is the offense going to change? Are you going to they're saying we're going to try to keep the same offense. I get that it's like,
good luck.
I know exactly. I mean, but what little nuggets about how they feel about the person, because you can feel this with certain quarterbacks, and like over and over, they're like, we just feel that this guy, the qualities he has, he's super calm and super collected and super confident. I know that maybe that means nothing to us, but he also did. If you think about it,
they better love the person because he has no resume, and they went into the season.
But I think they do.
Him as the backup.
I think they do, and I also think
his resume is he's 27.
No, the other thing though I'd say is like if there's any benefit to the fact that like Burrow's been so in and out of the lineup and missed a big chunk of time is that he got more work with some of these players than he would have if he had been, Peyton Manning's backup back in the day, and you don't even see the field.
I know the numbers weren't great. It didn't look too big for him against Baltimore, so that was an early encouraging sign. But it's totally changed, how you look at the Bengals. They're underdogs in this game just by a point. Steelers favored by 1, but the Steelers are a team, again, they still haven't outgained anyone, and they finally did it. They got rid of Matt Canada since we last talked.
Name Canada.
And I get it. You wanted to make a change, but I was a little confused because their new offensive coordinator is not calling the plays. So
yeah, this is very
it's
unusual.
Split. It's one of these splits.
Mike Tomlin is splitting the baby. Mike Sullivan.
I hate that expression.
That is grotesque.
Right.
I mean, he's just cutting that baby in half.
It's biblical. You know that.
I didn't know that it was. What are they doing? They're cutting babies.
It was like, this is my baby.
Going on back there.
It's my baby, and then they were like, all right, we'll split the baby down, and then you can both. And then one person said, no, never do that, and then they awarded the baby to the person that said that don't do that, don't split the baby.
Dan, that was a good parable.
Thank you very much.
Is that true?
I think so. I mean, it couldn't be up here for no reason.
So. It makes.
I'll Google it. Split baby Bible. I'll get back to you.
Running backs coach Eddie Faulkner is the OC. He's organizing and he's kind of running the show. But Mike Sullivan, who you might remember back with the Giants back in the day, and I know he played college.
Hey, Greg, it has roots in Hebrew lore. Good job, buddy.
Okay.
Big spot for Rosenthal.
Not aware of anything too religious.
Or so you thought.
Not how I was raised. And Mike Sullivan's calling the plays, most of the plays. So that part's all a little confusing, but they wanted to change things up. People seem happy. Will that make Kenny Pickett any more inspiring? I sort of doubt it, but it's a nice matchup because the real issue with the Bengals, trying to win games without Joe Burrow is that the defense has been bad. They've given up more explosive plays than any team in the league.
There's a pretty crazy Kenny Pickett stat out there that he has a 1.9 passing touchdown percentage. Obviously bad. He has 6 touchdowns on the year, which is no different than the Giants quarterback who's been there for weeks. That's the lowest percentage in NFL history. Like he's historically setting records for being unproductive and finding the end.
Guess what? I've been watching quarterbacks like him my whole life for my team. He can't play. He can't play. And I think
But he looks better than some of those quarterbacks that can't play, though.
but it's the same DNA where, like, look at how many touchdowns the offense scores. They don't move. They don't consistently move the ball. The game on the line this past week, just a grim 3-and-out where it was a pass to the right that wasn't handled. Then he sailed one out of bounds to the left, and then he sailed one out of bounds to the right, and it was then they're punting it away, and then the Browns win the game. And I just wonder now, because Tomlin's obviously not going anywhere, nor should he. Now Canada's gone. How much longer do we continue with this Pickett charade if you're Pittsburgh? Just when they can't. When's the last time they had 400 yards in a game?
Well, it's like
Never under Canada.
no, it was like eons ago.
So Canada's out
Back
now.
in the Hebrew times.
And they've actually been running the ball well.
And Warren's become a really nice surprise for them. Like if they don't start doing something now, he's next, and he should be next because you don't just get an infinite rope, even as a first-round pick. It wasn't like he was a top 5 pick or anything. He was a late first-round guy.
Still
like
a first
a little
round
different.
quarterback, but yeah.
The rope's not quite as long. That's all I'm saying. Nor should it be. I don't know. Do you guys believe in him?
No, I agree
think
with
he's
you.
just middle of the road.
I've been on team. This team would be better with Mitchell Trubisky as their starter.
But I don't think
I'm
that
not,
either, though.
I'm not.
How much better?
Enough better that it would make a difference in potentially wins and losses. I think.
I don't know. I mean, like Mitchell Trubisky, like within 2 weeks, we'd be. Let's take another look at Kenny Pickett.
We're going to take a break before we finish the draft. But first, the phrase "split the baby" has its roots in Hebrew lore. In the story recorded at 1 Kings 3:16-18 of 2 mothers claiming before King Solomon that each was the real mother of an infant son. The wise king ordered that the baby be split in 2, with one half of the baby going to each mother. The first mother's position was to accept the king's judgment as fair. What a psychopath. And the second was
not the mother.
The second was to give the baby to the first, whereupon the king determined that the infant son obviously belonged to the second, as evidenced by her willingness to sacrifice her own self-interest for the good of the child, as a true mother would. The wise king.
Well, I think the first one just wasn't aware of how babies work.
She's a dummy, big old dummy.
If you split it in half, no one's got a baby.
So she was
Or
either a
not
psychopath.
Not all moms. We're just
Yeah.
assuming all moms are great. Not true necessarily.
They're not all.
Maybe it could have been the first.
But
maybe
you know what?
Maybe the king got it wrong.
But mothers should all be treated with respect, Mark.
I would agree with that.
Gotcha.
No argument there.
Gotcha. All right, let's take a break and then we'll finish the draft. All right, let's close this thing up. Mark, next to you.
All right, I'm going to take a disaster zone contest. Patriots at Giants. I want to watch a little Tommy DeVito. I think that's exciting. He's been sacked 20 times in 3 games, but I thought he looked good last week. First of all,
He looked great for
great.
what was expected to what we're getting. I mean, that's you got to give it up for the Jersey boy.
I would just say, though, how good do you want to look? Because these 2 teams are in contention. I mean, if you're Brian Daboll and you get that first overall pick, like you can start to say, well, listen, now we're going to do what I've been planning to do all along with a new quarterback. But I wonder, what if this is quietly like Bill Belichick's greatest coaching job? Because he's taken all the strays and bows and arrows, and like people are just like saying that he doesn't have it anymore. There's a lot of ageism going on, but he's quietly tanking. And this week we're probably going to see multiple quarterbacks, if not just another terrible version of Mac Jones. And you're the team that gets that #1 pick. So it's like, what's your strategy here? Almost. I think if you're the Patriots, do you want to?
That theory holds.
He's not trying to lose.
That theory would only hold if he has assurances behind the scenes that he's their coach.
I just love you.
I don't think.
I don't think so either. But what I even love the most is like if it were so deep state that they were like, let's cook up narratives that there's all this infighting and Kraft and Belichick don't like each other. But like, let's just do a soft like Peyton Manning out.
But why would they need to add that? Like, what is that?
I don't know, because it seems so. It's so because then no one would believe the concept that they're actually just losing.
I think
these games.
Yeah.
Oh, as a cover for the tank.
Yeah, it's like
okay.
they're in they're in disarray. Bill Belichick is senile.
Bold.
Like, nonsense.
I'm past giving Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt that he has some master plan to get the ball into the red zone, and then Mac Jones throws a horrific pick. I can't believe Mac Jones looks
he's
like
the GOAT.
Right. I can't believe Mac Jones looks like he's going to be the starter. He said in his his press conference today, he said, I think that's the plan, but he hasn't been told, but he thinks that's the plan because it sounds like he's taking most of the reps, but not all the reps. It's just like, come on, bro. They are 3 points favorites. The Patriots are still 3-point favorites on the road, which is surprising to me. I know Tommy DeVito's struggling.
Oh,
but man,
he didn't struggle last week.
Okay, fair enough. And that the defense, they got a front line. This is such a big game. So if the Patriots win this game, according to Seth Walder at ESPN, they only have a 9% chance of getting a top 2 pick. But if they lose this game, it's up to 38%. It's a similar spread on both sides for the Giants. And if you really want to go crazy in terms of galaxy brain thinking,
Go ahead.
how about the Patriots try to win this game? The Giants keep losing, get Brian Daboll fired, and then Bill Belichick's the Giants coach next year.
Oh, that's like when Hugh Jackson traded Carson. He basically had the Bengals trade for Carson Palmer for the Raiders, and then went back to the Bengals and had a bunch of draft picks.
So wait, so Dable gets fired, Belichick takes the Giants down and takes a quarterback? Is that what you said?
Goes back to his roots.
And then Dable goes and rejoins McDermott as the OC and sticks it to the Jets and the Patriots on top of it.
This is what you've brought us to.
All right.
Giants.
Rough one. And shout out, I don't know if I said it on Sunday, but again, every week Saquon Barkley is playing at a very high level in difficult circumstances. He had an incredible touchdown pass as you're watching here on the video show. Great job by Madison and company behind the glass. So we'll see if he can keep it up. 3-point spread that game. All right, Greg, you are up.
All right, I will. I'll take the remaining late game because someone's got to. It's Rams. It's Cardinals.
You like it.
Oh, I love it. It's NFC West. This Cardinals team much more exciting with Kyler Murray. Although Josh Dobbs was fun, so I take that back. But they've been competitive in 2 straight games with Kyler Murray. He's been fun to watch. The Rams are 1-point favorites on the road, and Fox is giving it the old Chris Myers, Robert Smith treatment, which I believe means it's their least prioritized game of the week. Little shots fired there, but the Rams just win this game. You kind of own the Cardinals under Sean McVay. And you're to 5-6. And I didn't think Stafford played his best game last week against the Seahawks, but you found a way to escape. If you remember, the last time these two teams played, Kyren Williams lit him up for 158 yards. We haven't seen Kyren Williams since. He's back in this game. And I think their running game showed some signs of life late in that game against Seattle. We might get Cooper Kupp. It actually sounds like he has a decent chance to play this week to return despite that ankle.
That was a weird game because the Rams I think they had like 10 yards rushing in the first half. And then
lit him up.
Williams came back and they leaned into it. And they kind of last week against Seattle did something similar on a smaller scale where they went heavy and they started to brutalize Seattle on the ground, and it kept them in that game, and they won it. And they had no business winning that game from some angles. But I think part of it for me with the Rams, I feel like with each contest, Matthew Stafford's taking some sort of physical brutality, and it's just is he going to last this season?
And their line's been okay. I don't think they've improved quite a bit, I would say. And this is a nice matchup. The Cardinals defense does not get after the quarterback.
Kyler Murray looks good on the ground.
Let's keep moving. Let's finish out this draft. I got 2 picks. We'll start with Carolina at Tennessee. Let's see. All right. So what do you have here? What do we got? Well, on the Panthers side of things, you have a team that's just now trying to figure out how to put enough sunshine poking through the clouds where the head coach and his staff gets a second year. That's what we're up against now. And you're starting, feel like you're hearing some whispers now that is really in play with an impatient owner involved here. The Panthers are at their worst record through 10 games since 2010. They finished 2-14 this year. That is certainly within the range of outcomes, 2-14 or 2-15 this year. So they need to get some good news. And you know what? The Tennessee Titans, they have an opportunity to do something because Tennessee is not a very good team. And we've been waiting, Greg, for Will Levis in this offense to give us some more fireworks, and the waiting continues.
Yeah, this is the team I'm struggling to know what to say on a week-to-week basis. So I decided to reach out to our former producer, Justin Graver.
Yeah.
Also host of the Music City Audible podcast, which you guys should
Music City Audible. Yes.
Yeah. And
wherever you get your podcast.
I said, I don't know what to say about this team anymore. Maybe I'll just, until they prove that they have something interesting to say, I'll just go to Graver for a weekly statement. And so for this week, he has given me the
Let's get the missive. Let's get the missive.
that the Titans are undefeated at Nissan Stadium. Did you know their stadium's called Nissan Stadium? That was news to me.
It's not great.
3-0, averaging 27 points per game, and they play 5 of their last 7 games at Nissan Stadium. So maybe they can make a run here. Thank you, Justin Graver.
You know what? Let's. I like this. I like this as a segment going forward. But you know what? I want to make it a video segment. Let's get him to send us something every week until the season's over. Mercifully,
raise the bar a bit
for Nashville's football club. Let's hit the final game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Turn it around, Bryce Young, please. It keeps getting worse and worse. This is a good matchup. Please turn around, Bryce Young, because it is getting grim.
Help him to.
Getting grim.
Frank Reich.
Well, I think the last 3 weeks were by far his worst 3 weeks since week 1.
Who's the play caller now? I lose track.
It's Reich.
Frank
again.
Reich.
I just mean this is a good
He
matchup.
got brutalized
Titans
last week.
Defense not playing well. Like, let's please.
Finally, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Indianapolis to face the Colts, who kind of under the radar. I kind of assumed the Colts were out of the mix, and then you're like, oh wait, the Colts are actually 5-5. Like they're one of those teams that's in contention and fighting for a chance. And even, with the Jaguars coming back down to earth a little bit, it's the South is pretty wide open right now. And they're coming out of their bye week. So you kind of admit it, like everyone totally forgot the Colts existed, right?
Yes.
Like they were just gone. And we're like, oh, they're not in the
on
league
these bye
anymore.
weeks, especially.
Yeah.
Especially when they were
especially this team.
Yeah,
and they were in Germany. They were off the continent in a game that was very forgettable.
But they do exist. So they come back from the bye now, and now you get the Bucks. And I don't know what else to say really about it.
These are the two teams.
These games are both
This
these games
is Baker
are giving me
Mayfield
some
versus
issues.
Gardner Minshew. For a period of time, thought we're the same person. But they are such similar quarterbacks. I will say this about the Bucks: like they got wrecked against San Francisco's offense, but Baker and their wide receivers, they put up a fight. Like I know they're also one of these teams that are so average and so kind of tough to watch on a lot of levels, but.
I don't mind them. I kind of want them to win that division at this point.
I think they've got. I mean, all those teams have a chance, but it's like they might all those schedules are easy. But the Bucks, to me, and it's a Baker thing this year. I'm not saying he's been better than worse, but he just does not give up in these games. I felt that in a lost cause against San Francisco, they kind of showed me something.
The way you brought it up, Dan, got me thinking. These are actually, I think, that the two teams that have the best chance to make the playoffs that no one realizes has actually a decent chance to make the playoffs. Because
there's got to be a name for this game then.
I don't know.
The Invisible Men Bowl.
Let's do a little news housekeeping because I did think it was noteworthy that the Colts released Shaq Leonard this week. It's easy to forget. Before he had multiple back surgeries, which is, I think, really limited his effectiveness. He was on a Hall of Fame trajectory.
Yeah.
He was the Defensive Rookie of the Year. When he came out, 2018, he made 3 first-team All-Pros and 1 second-team. And you mentioned Chris earlier in the show, and it's funny as some of these players age out or they're not quite the same players. That makes me sad too, because some of these players, when they came into the league, I think of how excited Chris was, and he was just really banging the drum for what a great player Shaq Leonard was, and he really was. And it's sad. It happens with injuries sometimes with these careers. They just change. He's not even on the team anymore.
And
big contract too.
From personally, my hero growing up was Don Mattingly. He was on a Hall of Fame trajectory, and then a back injury derailed his career. Larry Bird, another all-time great. Back injuries are one of those type of injuries where it could just rob you of what makes you special, and it's sad, but that's what happens. And you give it up for Shaq Leonard, and it also it's a good look for him, and it maybe made the Colts think twice. But him handing out the turkeys yesterday made the rounds on social media with the Colts the day that he was let go just shows that he's obviously a good stand-up person. But also maybe, a heads up, hey, teams, this guy's a leader and a good dude, and maybe you give him a chance to get his career back on track. But the back injuries, they rob you of greatness.
I bet he'll get another chance. He got a chance on our show during Super Bowl week and was a great guest. That was back when we thought that he was going to the Hall of Fame.
I don't even remember that.
Not at all. It's absolutely true.
No way. I
So
need
Dan
evidence
doesn't
that he was on the
remember
show.
either.
Well, absolutely. It was when we were sitting on those couches. I'll never forget it.
Shaq Leonard.
Yep.
I'm with Dan. I have no recollection.
This is wrong.
Put $1,000 on it.
Find me. There's no way to know for sure. So
There is, and we will.
Oh, there is?
We'll find out. Yes, there is a way.
then I won't take you on the bet.
Yeah, he was one of our massive. It was one of these days where rolling through
Right.
22 guys.
Originally, the $1,000 would have been decided by majority vote here in the room. But now that you're telling me there's a way to know for sure,
Yeah.
I'm going to not take you on that.
Okay, I don't think you should. But he was a gentleman. That was my point.
Did he hand out turkeys?
He was a great guest. He was very polite.
I don't know. I have
Like
my
hand out
doubts.
turkeys everywhere.
I feel like I would remember that.
Greg, I feel like there are a lot of things that you acknowledge you don't remember.
That is
from
exactly the
roughly
type of thing that I wouldn't remember. And I feel like,
You still remember
Greg, it
like-
depends, like where headspace wise. But yeah, Greg usually is pretty sharp with these things as well. So
Well,
there's just no way to know.
I
There
mean,
is a way to
There
know.
is. You could find the podcast.
Well, that's up for debate. Mark furiously.
I am
Googling.
looking for it right now.
I couldn't find it when I went.
Ooh, shoot.
We'll see. The Bucks, by the way, I don't know if we mentioned it, are giving 2.5 points away.
Very
That
nicely
sounds
done.
about right. I think this is the toughest game to pick for the week.
Nice
So
cleanup.
maybe our listeners, I can't decide on this one. I'm just.
You know what would be a really good gift on Thanksgiving is to give someone whatever the team is, personalized number 11 Stap jersey for Thanksgiving this year. Like just when they show up.
He's struggling to find it.
You completely lost me. All I'm looking for is this.
Find it.
You can't.
Oh, I'll find it.
You have 10 seconds to find it, or I get the grand.
That is not how this works on any level. It must be based in fact, and I'll spend all weekend looking for it. I'll spend all Thanksgiving Day looking for
I
it.
mean, our listeners will find it if it exists.
All right. Yes, it is Thanksgiving this week. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone, whether you're with your families or it's a Friendsgiving type vibe, which is also a lot of fun, and enjoy all the football and know that we will be back. I think we kind of very quickly audibled, and we're going to do our Thanksgiving games recap on Friday. We're going to record that early on the West Coast and get that out as soon as possible. And then we're going to throw the Jets-Dolphins into the Sunday night recap. So no double Friday podcast, or we're not going to hit all those games, but we're going to have everything covered as we always do. Anything else, boys?
No.
He's still not finding it.
Well, first of all, you don't
Have fun.
search Shaq Leonard. He changed his name.
10,
So,
Darius. That's
8, 7.
oh, I'll find
Wow.
it.
What are you gonna do with your grand there?
I'll find it.
4.
You're not getting a cent of my money.
Heed the call. Happy Thanksgiving.